Hello everyone, we're going to do it again. We're going to take a $4.50 frame and we're going to improve another whoop or micro quad or indoor flyer or whatever you want to call it. This time we're taking the Mobula 6 HD. You might remember that. It's a 1S flyer. It was originally 65 millimeters and we're going to put it on a 75 millimeter frame. So with a $4.50 frame and about $4 in props, you technically get two sets, but you know what I mean. We get more flight time and more thrust and authority. It's not a true just put the components in, so if you want those details, hang on through the flight videos. First, we're going to take a look at the sample footage of the Mobula 6 HD. This is early on in the pack, so this is kind of the most authority that it has, and you can use this as a sample versus what I'm going to show you. Again, the flight on this on a 350 milliamp battery was about 2 minutes and 25 seconds. I looked at the little video, but I had to do some charging around here for some lights, and I'm now not certain it was 225 or if it was right around the 220 mark. But if you're interested in the Mobula 6, I'll have a review video. I can put that in the video description down below. These are starting to ship. I've seen a few postings of people having these in their hands, so hopefully they're making their way. So if you're interested in a Mobula 6 HD and this Runcam Split 3 Nano, you can get one. Many people have sent me messages asking when the Runcam Split 3 Nano is going to be available for purchase. I have heard July. So they must right now be making as many as they can for the Mobula 6 and ramping up production in order to meet the demands of the market for this particular camera, because I think that is one of the highlights of this. Now we've got everything put into the 75 millimeter frame. This is the V2 of the Mobula 7 frame, so if you're searching for it, that's what you'd search for, but I'll put links to where I can find that frame available. I've seen them come in black and clear. I've got the clear one because it's what I had in stock on hand. It wasn't in use elsewhere. But if you prefer black, I'm sure you can find that at the same links in the video description. The flight time on this, of course, I'm using a 450 milliamp 1S battery, which I have plenty of those. Hopefully you do as well from your Mobula 6 conversion that I think was fairly popular. I think that video had 12 or 15,000 views, something like that. And I saw a number of other people posting videos about that sort of conversion. Now, if you like 65 millimeter, and I know there's at least one person that I talk to on a regular basis that actually just likes 65 millimeter, fly and have fun. There's no need, if you're enjoying yourself, keep enjoying yourself. There's no need to go to the work of transitioning anything out. But if you want a little bit more flight time, well, actually, it's a lot more flight time, and some more control and some more, it's just a more stable platform. The larger you get, the more stable the platform inherently gets, and there's a limit to that, of course. Some people fly 7-inch quads and they have troubles with getting perfectly smooth videos, but I don't know anything about that. I deal in micros. If you're wanting to get more flight time, more thrust, more authority in the air, 75 millimeter frame, 40 millimeter props. You can choose your props. I'm using the Gemfan tri-blade props in this flight video, so if you want to match, that's what I'll have linked down in the video description. And it flies like this. No changes in the tune. I went straight from the Mobula 6 and put it in this. So if you're looking for different tunes, I'm going to refer you back to this tune. And I'll put that dump down in the video description as well. I have that stored away from the Mobula 6 HD review video. Still good, clean video. It looks stable to me. I'm really impressed with that Runcam Nano 3. I think that's going to be a killer of a camera. The FPV view, I'll show you that here after we get done with some of these original HD video recording flights. This has got, for a single lens, dual purpose camera, this has got the best FPV view. FPV and view is kind of redundant, but you get what I mean. I've seen the new Caddx camera that does 4K. The images that I saw of the FPV view, it's still muddy, it's still murky, and this view, the FPV view for the Runcam Nano 3 is just so much better than anything else I've seen on the market. Still, even with that Laura camera from Caddx, I appreciate that they're shooting for 4K, but as a pilot, I want to be able to see more clearly as well. And I think that's something that they're going to need to work on to catch up in this particular case. If I didn't mention it already, this flight is going to be 3 minutes and 40 seconds from arm to disarm. I did get a number of flights that pushed closer to 4 minutes, but they had a host of crashes in them. I also noticed turtle mode worked a heck of a lot better with larger props. So that's something else to consider if you're flying inside like I am and you need to use turtle mode. Be sure your, props are free to spin. My cautionary tale all the time. You don't want to burn an ESC because you've got a prop stuck on a blanket or a piece of carpet. And even we have low pile carpet on the steps, and I've even noticed that because the Gem Fan props kind of sit up out of the hoop, that those prop tips can catch on that low pile carpet. So be careful and make sure your props can spin. Give it a little bump. Make sure it's free, and then you can go ahead and finalize your turtle mode. And for good measure, we're going to fly it outside as well. We've got a nice calm day outside here. And I think this flight, if I recall correctly, is going to come in around 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I don't recall what the flight with the original configuration came in at, but I'm sure it was substantially less than that. Just by nature of carrying this larger battery on larger props, we're going to get more flight time, and it's also a more aggressive flight. But you can go back to that Mobula 6 review and see it all. I didn't want to put too many samples in here because I do think that there's some people that watch in closed caption, and I don't know if closed caption does a great job of making it very clear which quad you're watching. So if I keep going back and forth to old samples versus new samples, that could be confusing. I don't want anybody being confused about what it is that I'm trying to show here. It does yaw wash out, and you saw it right there. You could kind of feel the nose wanting to turn. And that might be tuned out, but I'm not certain of that. Most of these do that. There's also the V3 frame or the trash can frame. You can try that, but I've seen that one yaw wash out as well, and that one weighs, I think it's almost 1.5 grams more than the V2 frame, but it's very durable. I did break my V2 frame in all the flights that I've had in and out the house. I used welder to fix that. Works great. I've also got some new stuff that I haven't gotten around to because when I did my repair, it hadn't arrived yet. I think it was Louis Hurtado. Did you recommend this Forge World's Strongest and Most Adaptable Repair Material Heat Shape Fix? I think it was Louis. I went out to Amazon and bought some. It's kind of an odd sort of tape stuff. I haven't used it yet, but the way Louis described it, if it was Louis, sounded really good, and it sounded like it was something that was going to be a stronger bond than the welder I've been using. So I'm curious to try that out, and of course I made that investment. That stuff's not cheap, but you probably got more than you'll use in any sort of year. I think it came in around $18, and from the looks of it, I've got enough to go for a couple years, depending upon the number of breakages, because whoop frames aren't all that big, and this stuff is probably made for much bigger repairs than what we do with our whoops. I did have one person report to me that they had just bought a Mobula 6 and they suffered the Betaflight reset after going below 3 volts on their flight. I'm curious about that because I've confirmed through a number of other people if it was just some bad luck as to one was sitting in the back of the shelf. I don't know if these warehouses and stores kind of follow the grocery store way of stocking the shelves of first in, first out. If they just get a new batch and they shove them on the shelf, and then you end up with an old one in the back. So I'm told that it's been months that they have been shipping the Mobula 6 with the new board, as well as if you buy the new board all by itself, they're shipping the new one as well. So that shouldn't be happening. I would say if you get one that does that you might want to go back to your vendor, whoever you purchased it from, and ask him for a replacement because that's defective, and there is a fix for that. But we've ended our flight. Again, that came on at about 3 minutes and 9 seconds, maybe 3 minutes and 10 seconds, depending upon your timing of things. Let's take a look at the details down at the desk. So you may not have been able to see it when I had the frontal cam on, but I also used a little zip tie with some heat shrink to upright my antenna. That was just something I was trying out to see if I could increase the video reception. There really isn't a problem in my space, but I wanted to keep some distance between the two antennas. It might be best to point that down still yet, but you can tinker with that as you will anything else. But I wanted to, you're probably looking at this tape here a little bit, and I use that to keep from losing a card. Many of you sent in the tip to add some electrical tape to the non-contact side of the SD card and then put it in and then take the tape to secure it down. I just did this temporarily. I just wanted to not lose a card. I did have problems with card ejections on some crashes, and then you lose your footage. That's a problem. It's probably something we can't really avoid. There is a little clasp that you typically get with these boards that will keep the card in. But I still think if it slides out, against that clasp that keeps it going from, out somewhere in the grass or the floor, that you're probably still going to lose that recording. So I just put a little piece of masking tape right there, dead simple. Let's get an all-up weight. The weight without battery is a little over 29.5 grams, and with the battery it's a little over 42.25 grams. And as a reminder, the Mobula 6 HD stock weighs just over 27.5 grams. With the TinyWhoop 333 battery, it weighs just a touch over 36 grams. And with the GNB 350 milliamp battery with the battery lead, it weighs just a little bit over 36.25 grams. So we haven't gained much weight, but we've gained quite a bit of flight time. Something to be aware of when you're trying to transition yours into this frame is that the tray does lock you into kind of doing things one way. So if you want to toilet tank, you need to make sure you have the battery tray aligned in the manner of toilet tanking, so your camera would point out front. Otherwise, I just did traditional as I did normally here. You also notice that little bit of foam. We'll get to that in just a second. But because this board has that VTX connection, or the camera connection right down there, I did have to see how this has a little nubbin sticking out right here. I used a Dremel tool and a sanding bit to kind of sand that down as much as I could to get that flat, because I didn't want that connector pushing this hoop out, and then I had a rotation problem with it striking the prop. So that's something to take note of. You could probably use a fingernail file on that as well. Go slow. Make sure you don't destroy the integrity of the hoop. But that was one thing I noticed about putting this together. Also, the motor holes on these frames do not line up for some reason. So you'll see on mine how they're all kind of bowed out. Hopefully you can tell that. And especially in this motor right back here, it kind of deforms the battery tray. And that's why I have that foam down there. Because if you can see clearly, the USB port and the bottom of that battery tray really line up pretty closely. Whoops, excuse me. And so my concern was that the battery would be hitting the USB port. And you can see mine's a little bit cockeyed. It's still working just fine, but the USB port on mine's a little bit cockeyed. And what I ended up doing was I made sure that I had the battery lead down kind of on this area of the whoop, so that when I inserted my 450 milliamp battery, and you can use 520s, but 600s are going to be real tight getting in there. I wouldn't use 600s just because I would be worried that every landing it'll be kind of bonking into the USB port, and eventually it would break it off, because 600s are thicker, whereas 520s are just longer. So I would make sure this battery lead was kind of, oh, I didn't do it, did I? Was just kind of down there like that. That gives me a little bit of peace of mind. I'm not saying that it necessarily definitively make sure your battery doesn't hit the USB port, but it's something that I thought it was worth doing to make sure my battery port or my USB port stayed in some sort of operating condition. And then I would just join these two up. Also had questions about the reliability of the components. You know, my Mobula 6 review has been out, what, 2 weeks? Maybe 3 now. Maybe it's even a month now. I can't remember how long it's been out, but I'll put that on screen. I couldn't tell you how many flights these components have been on. I would have to estimate over 100, with about half of those coming in this configuration and the other half coming in the Mobula 6 configuration. Before I transitioned it, I flew it some more. So I haven't had any problems with the components. I did break the frame. You might be able to tell right there. Yeah, it's pretty easy to tell. I did break the frame right there. This was what I was talking about with Lewis suggesting for repairs. I haven't tried this yet, so I haven't verified this works great. Maybe some of you have, and you can report your findings on it as well. Something else to look at for Whoop repairs if you're into that sort of thing. But I use Welder. It's an adhesive. It does take a while to set up. I just dab some on a note or a piece of paper, and then I use a zip tie or a bent prop or a prop remnant, and I just kind of smear it on there both on the inside and outside. I've been using Welder for a good long time. I think you can get 2 tubes for around $10. So that's good Whoop repair stuff as well. I've heard of people using Bondic and other things. Those are the two things that, well, I guess I use Welder. I have used E6000, which I didn't think E6000 works as well as Welder, but I'm interested in trying out the Forge. Also, something that's going to be very important is the Mobula 6 comes with really long screws, and you won't want to lose those screws, because I think those screws are key to holding that camera steady, and it actually firms up this center pod. Let me see if I can find a spare one. Now, here we go. It's going to be kind of hard to tell. Let me just get it out here on my finger. I had a spare because I didn't have to go through the front. So that's a pretty substantially long screw. It actually goes almost entirely through the stack, the post. Here, let me line it up on this frame. Maybe that will show you a little bit better. Oh, where'd my screw go? Here we go. So you can see I've got, hopefully you can see, I'll point the screw against the base here. See if I can make that stick. I don't know how I'm going to show this very well. You can see that screw comes up a fair bit above the post. So you've got a lot of screw length that goes through this post and through our boards as well. The other thing about the installation is you have to take your rubber grommets and you put them upside down. So typically we would go like this. Hopefully you can see that. We'll see how it has the edge where our board receipts right in there. We turn that upside down and we put that over the post. That makes it a little bit more of a pain to manage to get everything down in there. But once you get it down in there, you see you have the solid part of the nylon or the frame post right up here. We put our board, our flight controller ESC all in one board down here, and then we put the Runcam Nano Split 3 board on top, and we screw it all together. Really firms things up, but because we need to have this board so low, it does put that USB port in jeopardy. If you have a method for extending these, you can do that, but this is what I did. Also, this is the V3 frame or the trash can frame. You can get one of these if you want something that's more robust. These frames are very durable, but they weigh about 1.5 grams more than these frames. So you'll have different flight characteristics and different flight time. But these, I haven't broken any yet. If you've broken one of these, please let me know, and please describe the situation in which it broke, because these have been very robust. They use these on the Mobula 7 HD, and I think I whacked the fence with it. So that was 2S. Of course, the battery tray, you're probably going to have to do something like put a piece of foam in the battery tray in order to firm that up, because the battery trays are substantially different. But you can't use a 2S battery with the Mobula 6 components. So don't think that you can transition to 2S just because a 2S battery will fit. You'll fry the components if you do that. But I'll put a link to this frame down in the video description as well if you want to go to something that's much more durable than this frame is. Also, I need to feature these Nitro Nectar batteries from Newbie Drone. These are 300s, as you see there on the end. If you're flying anything that's 1S, I would suggest giving these a try. I'm getting more flight time, and I feel more consistent voltage throughout the flight. If you're familiar with flying 1S, it seems as though once you get about 70% in, or as you get deeper into the flight, you have to continue to increase your throttle and your input in order to keep it flying the same way. So that's an adjustment. It's a change in the flying as you're flying it. And I found that you don't have to do that until you get near the end of this battery. So it holds its battery, it holds its voltage a lot longer than most other 1S batteries, but it does fall off pretty quick at the end. So if you've got your voltage set, at 3.1 volts, and you've got an old Mobula 6 that resets at 3 volts, then you're going to need to land right away and go pick it up. You don't have flight time back. So I would suggest your minimum voltage warning to be set much higher than that, because once you get down to about 3.2, a little less than 3.2, the batteries do fall off pretty quickly from there. I bought a pack of 20 of these. Here's the rest of them. You can't see the labels. I've got all the labels turned out. Let's turn one around here. There we go. That's my pack of 20. I think they're somewhat more premium than other 1S batteries on the market. If you're interested in trying new batteries out, I think it's worth buying at least a 4-pack to give yourself a go to see what you think of these batteries. There you go. For about $10, you can upgrade your Mobula 6 to something that'll fly a little longer with more authority. The light says it's time to go, but if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in that section down below. I appreciate your time, and thank you for watching.